Free roam. Welcome,
Wow.
everybody.
I mean, you were already welcome because,
Yeah.
we were already going. But how have you been? You've been chilling in the U.S.
Yes.
I've not been away much, or
No,
what's up?
I've been chilling. We've been doing a lot of like family stuff. So my
Nice.
son Lachlan just had his first day of preschool this morning, so he got to go off and do
Ooh.
that. So we went and did that.
Nice.
We've been revving up for the year because we've got some stuff happening in the next handful of weeks that should be fun, and I'm excited to talk about when I'm able to. But yeah, we've just been rocking and rolling, staying nice and chill, having a good time. I do think the takeaway is next year, I think we got to do Gamescom. I think that's the thing. Every year I'm like, this is the year, and then I chicken out for one reason or another. But I think next year's the year. We'll have to do it. Do a fan meetup, all sorts of stuff. It'll be good. And Jor can
I think it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, Jor can get me into those secret rooms that are super exclusive, with all of his connections and backroom meetings and things. It'll be great.
We're gonna get you into a Bethesda thing.
Todd just looks in the audience. What the? Yeah, just...
Todd was there, by the way, 2 years ago for the Fallout season 1 premiere. They did the one.
Oh yeah.
I think Starfield was there too, so I think they combined it. So that would be fun. I wanna have that on camera.
Dude, when
No,
be so
yeah,
good.
I think you should. It's especially. I mean, to be fair, you of course have played a lot at Summer Game Fest already, so it is kind of a repeat in some form. I think the Crimson Desert demo was, for example, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Only now you could record everything. I'm not sure if you were able to, but I could record all my footage, so that was nice. But yeah, I mean, it's usually, of course, Summer Game Fest. That's when they announce the games, and then Gamescom they kind of let you play. But yeah, I think it's worth it just to see a lot of people. It's the European side of the industry, and yeah, it's big. There's a lot going on. I was really happy that I went, even though I usually looked at it from I don't think I can make a lot of content based on the things I will see, but I sometimes forget that we're in like our rooms all the time. We're doing this work, and it's a lot of fun. But sometimes you kind of forget that the gaming industry exists, that it's a physical thing as well. And there are just a few moments. Yeah, and that is big. And that there were 350,000 people at Gamescom, which is crazy.
Yeah, I'm putting on screen right now a clip from IGN actually walking through the show floor, just as a little background so people can see just how big it is that we're talking about. I think the numbers were something ridiculous. It was like 370,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course across multiple days. So Wednesday is actually nice because then the public cannot enter yet. It's only for press, media, and fans. So it's still like there are still quite some people, but you can just walk up to certain booths and they have no line, so that's nice. And then on Thursday the public starts to get in, and Friday it gets crazier. Saturday and Sunday you don't want to be there. But no, it's really a lot of fun. I totally recommend. It's so weird to see the Eurogamer guy for IGN, by the way, but that's just me.
He got flamed, dude, because this is the same dude. He went and tried Elden Ring on Switch 2. And he made a video for IGN saying it runs like absolute donkey ass. And it was like super blurry, couldn't hit close to 30 once he got in the open world. And dude, you would have thought that he skinned a puppy live on television. I mean, people lost their minds in the comment section. We're accusing him of being like a fake gamer and all sorts of stuff. It's pretty hardcore, even though
But did we see the footage? Did we see if
they won't let you record any footage of it? No. Because it probably runs terribly.
Okay, so he was just they were just shooting the messenger basically.
Yeah. It's like, I'm warning you guys, don't buy this. It runs like crap. And they're like, how dare you?
To be fair, though, I don't get people waiting for the Switch 2 version for that 3-year-old game. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I just think, there's passionate people everywhere. But maybe I got to ask you this. What was something you saw that maybe we are not aware of being like not present, not there. Were there any like surprises? Was there anything there that you tried that really surprised you or was interesting? Any fun tidbits, anything like that?
So I did not expect 007 First Light to be there, but I sadly cannot talk about the event itself. So just expect more from that game. I did make a video regarding like what the booth looked like, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, that was surprising to me. Of course, Lego Batman was a nice surprise. I did not get to play it, but that was like the one game that was revealed and suddenly playable already, and it looks kind of like
So good,
a Spider-Man. They have like crimes now, and yeah, the combat looks of course a lot like the Arkham game. So I think they're onto something with that game, which is exciting. Apart from that, I was happy that I could play Crimson Desert for a pretty long time. I was able to do the demo 2 times, record everything, and we have let's go to the super chat here from the Nerdy Giant. So I jam posted yesterday a 30-minute gameplay video of uncut raw gameplay of Crimson Desert, and it was, well, you should check it out. But I have a few concerns now. And we like the first demo that I got to play for Crimson Desert was really focused on the boss battles and the different mechanics. And this was for the first time you got to play it too, right? Like a mission from A to from the start till finish with a boss battle at the end. And I totally get where people are coming from now with the concerns. So that was actually one of the games where I went in more hyped than I got out, but I still think there's really something special there. I think it's good that they delayed it, of course, now till early 2026. There are just some quality of life things that it really feels like the developers have been working on this game for so long that they don't see those tiny things anymore that people who never touched a controller and are picking the game up for the first time are like running up against. So I think that, I want to make a video like kind of focused on what I think they should improve before release. But should we just run down everything I saw, and you can like tune in as well and share your thoughts if you have any.
Yeah, give us the rundown.
Yes, awesome. So the game that I think it's fun to go from least exciting till the most exciting, and my number 1 will surprise you. Oh my god.
It's the Horizon Lego game again.
But now on Switch 2. Back it up, everyone. No, I'm not sure if you saw the Outer Worlds 2 demo they had there.
I've seen snippets of it, not the full.
Yeah. Well, so basically, the convention opens on Wednesday, and what Xbox always does, because they have a huge booth with a ton of stuff. Silksong was there too. The line was even crazy in that early moment. So they then only, if you have an invitation, you can go on that booth and see stuff for like 2 hours before other people come in. So that's a really nice, way to get into. For example, I did not have any appointments with Capcom. Still played Onimusha. Spoiler alert, that was amazing. But I also went to see the Outer Worlds 2 presentation, and that game really for me just does not have anything that I think it excels at. And it really hurts me. Yeah, it hurts to say that, because I do think their showing at the Xbox conference was pretty interesting. But I think they're really, I mean, maybe people are like just craving a type of game like that they don't mind it. But then also, for example, the Companions trailer they showed, and you cannot sleep with any of them. It's like, okay, that's like a bad thing. So why would you say, okay, romance is not in the cards? The Companions felt very robotic. The combat is certainly, like, it looks like an improvement, but there's nothing interesting about it. And the demo they showed, it did not have any peak moments. They really focused on skill checks as if they reinvented the wheel or something. I was like, okay, we've seen that before. There was nothing about it that really grabbed me, and maybe I'm not the core audience for it. The setting is also not really my cup of tea, but that was really for me, especially coming off the fact that they are, putting this like out there at first as an $80 game. Like, they are really trying to make this like their AAA holiday thing next to Call of Duty, of course, and it just did not feel like that. So I was kind of disappointed by what I saw for that. Again, the gameplay is out there, so you can check it out for yourself.
Well, I think you raised a really good point, though, which is, excuse me, that they're framing this, Xbox being they're framing this as their AAA companion for the winter season next to Call of Duty. Bear in mind, the original plan was for this to launch at $80. That's the category they're putting this in. They're putting it next to like Mario Kart World, like the biggest titles the company possibly has. They ended up walking that back. Now it's only 70, but I already thought 70 looked steep for this game. And I saw somebody in chat earlier was asking about my thoughts on Outer Worlds 2. And, you know, there's just sometimes you see a game and it just feels like a little or meh or something's off. You know, it just doesn't click quite right. And it can be hard to put, you know, it into words until you get your hands on it. But it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you order a meal and it just doesn't taste quite right. I'm not a chef. I can't necessarily explain, oh, it's because you didn't julienne the peppers. Instead, you diced them, and that's why it tastes different and the texture's off or whatever. I don't know the terms or specifics, but I don't need to be a chef to know something doesn't taste right or doesn't taste good. And in this case, I just feel like it does come off being fairly generic, and it just doesn't really seem to have a really unique hook to it that feels super exciting. Like you said, they're showing cool things like, hey, we have a bunch of cool skills and abilities. Okay, a lot of games do. Oh, we have a focus on polish now. I'd hope so. Every game should. Like I'm just failing to see the moment where this pops off. You know, we saw the first announcement trailer for Expedition 33 back in like, was it last summer? I think it wasn't even that far back, but I think it was Summer Games Fest 2024. And it looked so good instantly. People were like, that game looks special. Just immediately we got that vibe from that game. And this is kind of the opposite, where from the moment I've seen it, I've just been like, it looks like Outer Worlds. Like, that's not bad, but it's an Obsidian, like C+, C-, lower budget adventure RPG, which isn't bad. There's still plenty of people that'll buy it and have a great time with it. I just don't view it, and I don't see it as being like on the same level as a massive AAA $70, God forbid, $80 game. It's just not quite there. And like you said it doesn't excel in anything, right? That's how you put it?
Yeah. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything that this game where I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting way to approach this design and approach this feature or have this design decision. It's playing it like relatively safe. I think the Avowed approach was way more interesting because that game was of course revealed with that 6 cinematic trailer, so we also had high expectations, but they really quickly came out and said, no, it's not like that, it's semi-open world and blah blah blah. And then they kind of build on, oh, it actually looks way better and better and better, and yeah, we have a third person mode, and yeah, this and this and this. So when I came into that game, I was actually pleasantly surprised because my expectations were kind of low. And I think for the Outer Worlds, they've been really handling this poorly. So yeah, then I do expect a bit more. I thought, okay, this is gonna be the next big RPG from them, and yeah, it's not that.
But they're selling it like it is. That's the thing, is that if it was framed as this is our like the recent Obsidian thing, it is a AA, tighter budget, tighter scope game, then I think all of this makes sense and it clicks because that's what it appears to be. But when you're trying to frame it as this is our break into full AAA development, the standards raise a lot, and I just don't see it, because they're going to charge the same amount for this as they're going to charge for the next Cyberpunk, presumably, and they're going to charge for the next, BioShock or Judas or whatever else big budget game you want to look at. And I just don't see it being quite there. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look that remarkable.
Yeah, and then your trailer has bad news in it. That's also kind of weird. I looked at the Outer Worlds subreddit, and they were like, oh, them mentioning there are no romances is like a kick in the nuts to us. Like, that's what we wanted. Yeah. And they're not doing it.
It's framed in that sort of like, no, you can't romance them. Naughty. It's kind of like this, like talking down, like, you perverts. No, you can't romance your companions. It's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with players wanting the option to do that. Like, what are we doing? It makes the whole game feel kind of like it's being made to not quite lecture, but like the way they framed it made it feel like they were talking down to their own audience, which just feels weird.
Yeah. No, for sure. So yeah, that was my least exciting thing that I checked out. Moving on to two games that are kind of tight, but that I also did not get a great demo with, but that I did play. Let's start with Borderlands 4. You played, of course, more of it, and that game has been on my radar. I really played Borderlands 3 a lot, and they really seem to improve on every aspect. But one of the things that I was most interested in was the open world aspect, and the demo I got to play was the Vault. So you, in the open zones that you explore, and there are 4 of them, you find keys, and then with that you basically get access to one of the cool vaults that has a cool boss at the end. I was just dropped into the vault with a level 20 character, had random weapons. So yeah, I saw some improvements to the combat. I like the boss fight in particular a lot, where you really have to use your grapple hook to expose weak points from the enemy, so then you shoot there. There's a second phase where the boss like climbs on the ceiling, and then you have to use your grapple hook to go from point to point and still shoot the boss. So I totally see the appeal. I think the demo was not that exciting because the Vault, apart from the boss fight, is just go here, kill all enemies. Oh, a jump pad opens up. Boink, kill more enemies. So it wasn't that exciting, but I'm still looking forward to the game. I'm not sure if you can. Yeah, you of course played more of it, but yeah.
So this vault that you guys are seeing footage of right here, I believe is the one that Jor is also talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the one I played as well back in, I think it was May. I think this whole year is a blur, I think. But I also played a good chunk of the open world. The vault was technically like a secondary thing we did after our primary demo.
Yeah, cool.
And for me, like the mechanics are really rock solid. The systems, the loot, all of that stuff seems really, really well done, which you would expect. I mean, they know what they're doing there. There's no question about it. They've done this many times before, and you know, it's good to see that they are just taking it up a notch with these bigger, more elaborate sequences. What I really liked about the open world, though, and I mentioned this in my video I made on it, was that at one point I was just exploring around a corner of the map, trying to basically cut a corner and bypass a big hill or mountain that was in my way to get around to the objective I was going to. And by going all the way around to the edge of this cliff, I ended up stumbling upon an optional boss fight against this big spider monster. And it was like a full, unique boss fight that I could have completely missed and avoided, but because I just happened to go that route, I found it. And I was like, that's what I would hope to see, like unique, interesting stuff to be found in the open world that, of course, once you complete it, you get benefits like whether it's weapon drops or whatever.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest questions people have with Borderlands 4 specifically is whether they're going to shake the tonal screw ups of Borderlands 3, which was trying really hard to be witty and funny and topical and have all of these memes from when they were making the game, which means the memes are already out of date by the time the game comes out. And it just was kind of cringe, and most of the jokes didn't land. But this time around, they said specifically they're not going that route. They're trying to keep all of the humor tied within the universe, within the world. They said, you know, they don't want... Of course, they don't want to badmouth their own game. But what was basically said was, we understand the criticism, and we are making sure that we don't go that route, and we give people what they're hoping for. And I'm glad to see it. So this one also, I think, is shaping up to be something pretty solid. It's more Borderlands for sure, but I think for a lot of people that's exciting. These, like, Borderlands is another huge franchise that people kind of sleep on if you're not in that community. But Borderlands is big.
Yeah, and the last one came out in 2019. Obviously, they still supported Borderlands 3 for a long time, but it has also been a while. So like, they're not like pumping these out every year. So yeah, I get why people are excited, and I really hope they stick the landing. And at least the movement mechanics that I did get to try, I was like, okay, if more bosses have unique segments and abilities like this that you have to counter in unique ways, could be cool. So yeah, keeping that on my radar. The other game I got to play, but only for like 15 minutes because it was a short demo, was Dying Light the Beast. And I hate the new release date because it's a week after Borderlands 4 and 3 days after the Claws of Awaji Shadows DLC. And yeah, maybe people are like, why are you gonna play that?
No
Well, I'm
sleep
gonna
for
play
Jor.
no, it's gonna be a crazy time. I even I just finished New Game Plus for Shadows, so played it through a second time.
Oh, trooper.
I finally have the gold katana now, Luke. Look at me now.
I always knew you were better than me. Now it's confirmed. It's locked in.
Real quick side note. So what they did is in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can use the throwing knife like the kunai and then pick up the blade after killing an enemy. But they removed that because what they saw, like I figured out a build where you could just throw and then instantly get all your tools back. So they removed that, and now the New Game Plus reward is throw a tool and get it back.
That's
pay
fine.
150 mon.
Was it like a build where you recover it if it's a stealth kill or something? So
No, just a kill. It doesn't even matter if it was a stealth kill.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like
that
a
could break it.
50% chance, but so you would throw your kunai, 50% chance to get it back, but then you could still walk over the enemy to get it back as well. So you basically had an unlimited amount of tools. They nerfed that to the ground. It's now 10% chance, basically nothing, and you cannot retrieve the kunai from the body anymore on a higher difficulty. But hey,
Interesting.
if you finish New Game Plus, they
You can
give
get
you
it.
an item. That's I hate it when they do that. When they take something away and then bring it back.
They're like, did you see the new Jor Raptor video? They're like, yep, already nerfed it. Yep. Took care of it this morning.
People sometimes get angry at me, like, why did you make a video on this? Now they're gonna nerf it. I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, pretend like it's not there. Yeah, I will say they've been, and people meme on AC all the time. I get it, it's funny. But also, you got to give credit where it's due. And credit where it's due, they have like directly responded to multiple points of criticism and critique that I offered at launch, like the difficulty options, for example. They did other things like overhauls to some of the stealth stuff, the parkour stuff. They've added new moves and abilities there. Like they've actually gone through and tweaked a good amount of stuff, which is awesome to see. I mean, actually listening to players and working on it, love to see that. I'm interested to see how it evolves.
That parkour stuff that was already in previous games would be nice in the newer games too. But hey, they're slowly learning, and it's always what the thing is with Assassin's Creed. It's such a huge franchise. There are so many developers working on it that they really have to figure out some sort of communication, because things that are happening for the previous games sometimes, like Mirage, already put in a lot of things that that the Shadows team did not know because they were focused on finishing up their game. So yeah.
Well, I think that's what Anvil Next, or whatever they call it, is supposed to fix, is that like if you have a tool that you built for Shadows, you can, very simplified, but you can basically copy and paste it over to the new game, so you don't end up with the most egregious example I can think of is AC Odyssey had that really good cinematic camera when you're in like side quest conversations and stuff, and it looks really, really good with custom cinematic camera angles. But they're all dynamic for every conversation in the game. And then Valhalla comes out after that, and it's back to like rotating camera around a central pivot, and it's like not cinematic at all except for specific cinematic cutscenes. It was like such a huge step backwards. But it's because they're two separate teams working at different times, and it's just annoying.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Shifting forward,
Dying Light.
Going back to Dying Light, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I played a lot of Dying Light 2, and it feels like, Dying Light 2, after all the updates, they of course added a lot of stuff to that game after launch as well. And this was first a Dying Light DLC, so similar to Mirage, basically, that first was a Valhalla DLC that turned it into a full game. I think the world in particular is very cool. That was the biggest differentiating factor for me, because it took some time to pick up the controls again, because they have the jump button on R1 and stuff. It's kind of like, okay, what's happening again? But then after that, you pick it up and you're like, okay, I've kind of played this game before, but I do like that it's way more overgrown. It's way more like nature-based, the city, instead of the very urban environments that we saw in Dying Light 2. I got to play with the flamethrower. It just feels great to play. I think it's really gonna be. I love Kyle Crane. I love Dying Light 1 in terms of story. That really, really surprised me. That had no right to be that good. So bringing him back, hopefully they can, do something fun with that character. Yeah, the only thing is for me the release date. It's like it was supposed to come out last week. That would have been perfect, but now it's September 19th. and I hope they can. I mean, there is a core audience, but Dying Light 2 really was really great because it was early February before Forbidden West and Elden Ring, and the first Dying Light came out in January 2016 when January was not really fully explored by the publishers yet.
Yeah.
So they had like really, really great release timings, and I feel for the Beast there. I mean, the Silk Song, man. September 4th, on the same day as Hell Is Us and all these other games, and this week we have 4 other Lost Soul Aside, Gears of War Reloaded, you got Metal Gear Solid Delta. There are so many games coming out, and then Silk Song is like, yeah, screw you guys, we're coming out as well.
There.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, what's after that? What's after Dying Light?
For me, it's Crimson Desert that we already kind of touched on.
Yeah.
But so the main demo that we got to play was like a huge siege battle. So first, I think IGN put up the gameplay, at least snippets of it as well. So first, you kind of prepare for this huge siege battle, and the game you immediately see kind of the production value that this game has. There's a lot going on. It's a very interesting new world. There are, next to humans, also big trolls, and I'm like, what is this kind of world? So I'm already intrigued by that. It just looks beautiful, and yeah, you see the scope of it immediately. You immediately see very far in the distance mountains and other castles that you're like, okay, I want to go there too. I, for the first time, was able to go on a mount and kind of ride around. But I do feel that they're maybe doing a bit too much, and that is kind of where my concerns are coming from, where you had this huge siege battle and everyone is fighting, but then there are also very much moments where 2 enemies are just standing in front of each other and they're waiting for each other to hit them, and you kind of get taken out of the experience. Another thing, kind of tiny things, but because the world looks so very real, not realistic, but like you kind of want to be immersed in this, having the enemies constantly say, huh, I thought you were better than this, huh, is this all you got? It feels like you're in a wrestling match and not on a siege battle. Like, this should be a battle for life and death, and they're like taunting you after you like throw them away with a sort of wrestling move, and they're like, huh, is that all you got? Oh, weakling. And I'm like, what is happening in this? Why is the dialogue so out of place for what we're experiencing here? Another thing is there were like developers walking around, and one guy, like one of the QA leads or whatever, he had like a controller, basically holding a controller, because he was going to explain the button combinations every time, and it was way easier to do that on his controller, that I could like look to the side instead of him picking up my controller. The fact that he has to do that, and that he was like, oh yeah, you just do a triangle, circle, and then R1, and then you spin the ring around, and then you do R2, and I'm like, what is this for fighting game combo that I'm trying to learn here? It's really, really complicated, and I'm kind of like, I think it's gonna be very cool to get this game and be immersed if you're into it, and like constantly figure out tiny new moves and stuff you can do. But I kind of worry that they're making things too complicated for people who look at this game and just want a fun action adventure open world game, because I think there's just maybe too much going on. They also at one point had a cannon that was broken, and then they teach you that with like the focus mode. So you have a focus mode, you press like the analog sticks, go into the focus mode, and they have a tiny dot that you then have to put on the wheel, and then in the bottom right, like very small, it says lift, but only when you correctly point the dot at the thing where you can lift it. So I was like moving it around, what's going on? Then the guy was like, oh yeah, you have to do it like this. Okay. So then you move it, and then you fix the cannon, and the guy's like, oh, thank you. Then in the boss battle, so they expect you, because you've done the lifting before, in the boss battle, you have this like knight who constantly attacks you, but at one point you break his defense and he's like down. And there are these pillars on the ground. Then you have to think by yourself, hey, but there's no glow around the pillars. There's no indication that
there's no yellow paint or anything. It's just
like maybe not that crazy, but I do feel, and maybe I'm just too modernized and ruined by all these games, but I do feel, because if you don't grab that pillar and smack the boss, it's gonna be a long fight. So they kind of expect you to come up with a very crucial look. If it's like an extra trap that you can trigger once or twice during the fight, sure. But if it's such a crucial part of the boss battle that does not feel really explained, I'm like, I just worry that they might be going a little overboard with that, with having the player come up with stuff. But again, it might also be that we're thrown into the middle of the game. Maybe before this you had lifted up many things, so you're like, okay, this is probably what I have to do. But I felt like, I do think this game could use a lot of UI and quality of life improvements to make it a bit more, sometimes less frustrating and a bit more enjoyable overall. But I'm curious what you thought, because you played it, of course, as well.
Yeah. So I played it at Summer Games Fest, and I will say it's funny to hear that now that you've played it a month or two after I did at Summer Games Fest, that now they have a guy walking around with a controller to show like button combinations and stuff on the controller. Because what happened to me was that I got to this boss fight, and George's right, there is this moment, you can see it on screen now if you're watching, where you pick up the pillar and you're supposed to slam it down on the boss to deal the massive damage. And the way you do that, like he said, there's a specific button combination that you need to do. In this case, you can see when you highlight onto the item, you're prompted to pick it up. And then there's another button, I believe it's R1, to slam it down. It freezes on screen here for just a moment because the person playing this, it seems like, had done this fight a few times before. But you pick it up and you slam it down. That's the idea, on top of the boss. And it makes sense. You're fighting a boss, you smash him, and then you deal the damage to move on. But what happened to me is when I was doing this, the person that was sitting next to me, she was very sweet, but she got the buttons mixed up. So she was telling me, I believe it was L1. It's actually R1. So we went through like 3 cycles of this boss where I would get him knocked down. He goes on all fours, so you have a chance to smash him with the column. And I would pick up the column, and she's like, okay, now L1. I would press L1, and of course it didn't slam it down on his head because that's not the right button. And so we went through like 3 times before I was like, I'm going to try my own thing. I'm going to try doing it differently. And I pressed R1 and it slams. And I was like, okay. They were starting to freak out, thinking, I'm assuming they thought it was maybe a bug or something that I had accidentally uncovered. But no, it was just that the buttons were mixed up when they were explaining it. So now they fixed that by having somebody walk around and physically show you which buttons it is, which is kind of funny. Problem averted. But I talked about this when we looked at this gameplay segment earlier in the week on stream, because I do think that this is an important point, and you are not the first or the last person to bring this up, absolutely, which is that the controls are so complicated they need to have somebody walking around showing you how to do it, because it can be so convoluted and confusing. And that is absolutely true. It is very complicated. There's a lot going on here. The important thing I think it's crucial to bring up is just that that's true of a lot of games. This is a later game segment, probably I think like 70% of the way through it. And the example I gave in my recent video on this was, if you play Ghost of Tsushima and you try to play the ending of that game, having never picked it up before or tried the game, and you're fighting waves of enemies and you're like, wait, what do you mean I need to swap stances based on what shields or weapons they're holding? Wait, okay, so that's R2 and then X. Wait, what am I doing? It's going to be very intimidating and frustrating because you don't have the muscle memory. Whereas by the time you reach this point in Crimson Desert, you probably have really good muscle memory for what you need to do. Which
I would argue that it's a bit different.
Okay.
Because what we also saw is you have the tool menu, or basically, they now switched it up. So first it was just one big item wheel, but now they switched it up. The powers and the weapons are different. And we only had 2 of the, I think, 8 available powers or something. And then you also have elements that you can switch between. And then you also have different weapons that you can switch between. And I think that we might be in a later game section, but we have far from everything unlocked that this game has. And again, I think that's exciting. There's gonna be a lot of depth, but I do worry that they might be shooting themselves a bit in the foot here with the things they want to do. Another point I want to make, and you probably noticed this too, they gave you 100 potions, so you could not die basically. And I feel that we just have not, and it's gonna be, and I really hope they do this, have a sit down with the opening of the game with the first 5 hours. I want to see how I'm feeling when I do that, and I don't want anyone telling me what to do or something like that. For a section like this, that's helpful. But for example, the boss, it's crazy how aggressive this boss is. And I'm not sure if you see that really well in the IGN gameplay, because it seemed like the person playing actually knew what they were doing. But what would happen for a lot of people is this boss would just come to you, smash you, and you would be flying around, and you're like, what the heck? And then you would use one of the 100 potions. But what is the potion like amount you currently have going to be? So it might be that, okay, normally you have 5, and like I'm kind of missing a very obvious, okay, now I have to block, now I have to parry, because I was, for that reason, just dodging around. There are many particles flying around. There's no clear red glowing effect. Okay, that I have to dodge, that I have to parry. And I just figured out an ability with a heavy axe where I could constantly press R2. I would just spin around, the boss would be stun locked, then I would grab the pillar and put it like on his head. Then I would do the same thing over and over again. And a game that I, for example, want to touch on a little later, Onimusha, comparing those combat systems is night and day. And Crimson Desert is not going for that, but then having this sort of 1v1 boss fight where it really feels like there's no time to react, and I'm really curious how it's going to be if I don't have an unlimited amount of health. Yeah, the reason why they're giving you the 100 healths is probably because they know if they don't give that, you're constantly dying, which might not be a fun experience.
Probably in the context of a preview, yeah, with somebody that's not familiar with the controls. I mean, with my experience with the game, from what I recall, I didn't have anybody explaining to me what we needed to do with the pillars. It just kind of made sense because pillars are just laying there, he drops. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together, but I could see how that could be confusing for some. Or you might take a cycle of the boss before you figure it out. But I personally like that, because I like figuring that out when I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? And then you realize and you feel super smart because like, oh, they didn't have to hold my hand to do it. I just figured it out. That's cool. But I do think you raised an important point, that this is not a game that's trying to be, whatever term you want to say, like, it's not trying to be, I saw somebody in chat say casual friendly. It's not trying to be like a Souls-like game where it's got, clear parries or telegraphed attacks with the glowing red, so you have to dodge that one, versus flashing yellow, which means you can parry. It's not that kind of game. They're not trying to do that. And certainly if people go into it expecting that, they're going to probably be surprised, because it's just not that. But I think that that's part of the reason I'm excited for Crimson Desert, is because it seems like it has a higher skill floor, like barrier to entry, than a lot of games, but it also has an incredibly high skill ceiling. So it may be too difficult to figure out for some, where they try it and they just can't get it down. And will be unfortunate, I'm sure. But I think the people that click with it are gonna find that they can spend 100 hours and still figuring out new ways to combine this effect with this thing to get this effect in combat. So I do think it'll be polarizing that way. Like, I think that the joke about like journalist difficulty, and probably we're gonna see like IGN complaining that, it was too frustrating to get through boss fights and stuff. I'm sure we'll see that type of thing. It's funny, I pulled up this video you mentioned earlier, which is the 30 minutes of gameplay from IGN 2 days ago. And the top comments are, did you guys just grab a random person off the street to play this demo? The gameplay looks like it's coming from someone who just learned to hold a controller for the first time. I bet this demo is being played by the same IGN reviewer who couldn't beat the Cuphead tutorial. And I think that it's one of those games where if anybody picks up the controller for the first time and tries to play a game demo like this, they will look like a noob, because it's so complicated and tricky. I'm hoping, and this is just hope because we don't know for sure. Like Jor, I think 5 hours of the first 5 hours, could be helpful for people to see. If they did a demo or a preview like KCD2 did, where they bring a few people out, just said, play the first 7 hours, have fun. That I think would go a long way, because onboarding and muscle memory and all of that is still very much in question, because it is extremely overwhelming as it is. There's a lot going on, which is one of the reasons it's exciting. But if it's not explained or players aren't onboarded super well, it's just going to be like, okay, before you start playing, you need to look up 5 guides and understand these walkthroughs, and then you can start playing. And some people love that, but I think not as many would be thrilled about that than if they had a good tutorial system and stuff like that.
I think you nailed it with the high barrier to entry, but also high ceiling. And I think I think people who will love this game will really, really love it. And that there will be some people who looked at the gameplay trailers because they saw you flying a dragon and all this sort of stuff, and they're like, I want to play this, and then they might be like, okay, it's maybe not for me. But I do think a lot of the things that we're talking about, I also had some navigation issues sometimes where you have this huge sort of open battlefield. It was kind of unclear what I had to do, where I had to go. So I do think, but those are things that I think can fix and can improve more so than the core gameplay is great, and what the world they have is really, really appealing. A tiny thing, and that I know like open world lovers will love this too. You can, if you ride on your horse and press down on the D-pad, your horse will lie down and you will just pet it, and like tiny details like that. This game will have many of that, and I really think we will, after it comes out, for many weeks and maybe months, hear about things that, oh wow, did you know you could do that, or did you know that you could combine these two abilities? And so yeah, I'm excited for it. But this demo did, for the first time, it just kind of showed me, okay, I do think there are still things that that they could improve.
It is not, I think the biggest takeaway from the demo for me is that it is unapologetically complicated, and I'm not even sure if it's difficult. I just think it's very overwhelming because so much is going on. It's very much an MMO but in a single player package, and for some people that's exactly what they want, and for others it's going to be like, I don't know what to do. I want to parry with L1, do a light attack with R1, heavy attack with R2, and that's it. And that's just not what this game is. It's not a Soulsborne, and it's not trying to be, which I find kind of refreshing, but I can understand why some people might not like that.
And one interesting thing, so I played the old demo that they had, I think, last year, and they already improved things from that a year later. So they are constantly improving and doing things. So I'm hopeful that they will look at the feedback. And because I do think this game can be way bigger if they maybe have a more gamer friendly mode for people who just want to explore this world without all the crazy things. But hey,
funnily enough, did you get overwhelmed, and then we can move on, did you get overwhelmed with the particle effects? Did you wish there was maybe a toggle to turn that down, or were you fine with them?
So I think on one end, for some of the elemental abilities, they look very exciting because you have electricity, you have ice and fire, and it looks awesome. But I do feel for a boss fight where I do want to kind of read my opponent, it was kind of getting hard without, with all these colors flying around. So
yeah, it's actually one of the most interesting pieces of feedback, because you don't often hear people asking for less visual treats and goodies, but every single attack, I'll try to pause it on one of these big ones, but every single attack has this crazy amount of flare of red sparks and green sparks. And like George said, when you're trying to read your opponent, having all of these pop up, it just kind of it literally, what is going on here? What, it's tough to read when so much is going on. So I think that, if they could add a toggle to maybe turn off combat particle effects, that I think could really give people what they're looking for and help it. This particular footage makes it look way more problematic than it actually is, because shocker, IGN's terrible at encoding videos, and this is another example of that. What is this, mom and dad? Oh, it's goo. Nope, it's a rock. They just don't know how to encode a video. So It looks worse than it actually is because IGN is incompetent when it comes to encoding video. But in practice, it's still also overwhelming because it's just so
It is.
many. So it's worth
Yeah,
pointing out.
but like credit to them for coming to every show with a gameplay demo so that they
Yeah.
can hear feedback and incorporate hopefully this stuff. And yeah, but I hope they launch with this feedback instead of it being something that the reviews have to tell them and then they fix it afterwards. But
Yeah, to
I
their
think
credit,
yeah.
it's been years of receiving feedback and they are making improvements. I remember one of the first pieces of feedback they had was about camera controls, and they, in a new build, had a bunch of fixes for that with a separate like combat lock on and a camera lock on. They're two separate things, which also, speaking of tutorials, could be important to clarify. But
Yeah. 100%. Like, speaking of, and that's a game that I want to touch on in a moment, but a game that has already incorporated a lot of feedback as well is Blood of the Dawnwalker. I was really impressed with what they were telling, because they of course revealed the gameplay, I think, at Summer Game Fest at the end of June. And the Gamescom demo they showed already had a lot of, they said, oh, people did not like where the camera was. We gave you 2 options now, so you can be further away from the character, etc., etc. So that is, but I want to talk about Phantom Blade Zero too. So we're now in the top 3.
okay.
Phantom Blade Zero, yeah, that was another. This is a 1-hour demo you could play for 1 hour, pretty crazy. This was also what they were showing at a China event that Dennis, for me, actually went to. And
I almost went to it too. I had a family thing pop up.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
really? Oh, okay.
I almost went to that. I felt so bad. They invited me, got everything set up, and then at the last minute we had a family emergency, so I didn't get to go. But yeah, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Phantom Blade Zero, because this is also one that I think, I don't even know if people are sleeping on it, because people are interested in it, talking about it. But seriously, I don't think enough people are talking about it.
I think it's doing pretty well for itself already. But what we're showing here is new gameplay they showed at Gamescom, but that is not what I played. So they have, I think, another gameplay session. I'm not sure who posted it, but basically what I got to play is an optional level, it seems. And I think what they also said during that China event is that all the moves are motion captured. So every attack they do is motion capture from like Kung Fu Masters and all that sort of stuff, right? They really are taking it to the next level. And a really cool detail is that you only have 3 weapon types. You have like dual blades, big swords, and a regular like katana. And every weapon has a unique finisher. There are like 30 plus unique weapons in these 3 categories. They all have unique finishers, a unique ability. They all play quite different. So I had like quite some that I could like use during my session. And every time I was figuring things out, okay, the attack speed is way better on this one. Okay, now I'm fighting a slower enemy. Let's switch it up. There was one boss in the demo as well, or actually 2, but one like mini boss, and he was like really slow. So I was like trying different weapons, and what I really like about this game is, compared to a Crimson Desert, you have way more control over how the fight is going to go and how your move is going to impact the enemy. It's a bit slower paced as well, and it just works so well. It like, this game makes you feel like a sort of super fighter, while still being challenging. Like you still have to look out for enemies. Sometimes at one point there was an enemy who would revive the other, so I was like, what's going on? Okay, I have to focus on this enemy first. So they have cool things like that. You really have to play this, because this kind of looks like, and all the trailers have always looked like, is this real? And it is. And you're playing it and you instantly pick this up. It's not hard at all. But you constantly do figure out new moves. You can mid-combo switch between the different weapons. There's really a lot going on. You have these tools as well with the flamethrower. So you have your ranged abilities basically too. Bosses drop weapons and tools, so you're constantly upgrading your character. What I really like is that it's not very punishing. If you die, you just respawn at a checkpoint. You go about your business. There's no like XP that you lose. There is no XP in this game. Enemies don't respawn when you rest at a shrine, or yeah, they call it a checkpoint. Yeah, it's basically you could describe it as a Souls-like in terms of level design. That was my only sort of gripe with it. I thought the level design was really old school. It was really, okay, one linear path. Oh, there's a side path. You kind of get the idea because there's a map for this level as well that it's pretty big. But then you very quickly notice, okay, it's just one linear path. There's a side path. You go there, you hit a wall very quickly, or it's like, oh, you need to get a tool for this that you don't have yet, so you go back. So that was my only thing where it's like, they give you a set. I wish it was more like Wukong, where the levels were a bit bigger, but maybe we see that in other parts. But no, I'm really impressed by this game, and yeah, I think it will deliver. They will announce the release date at the end of the year, so I hope we hear more then. But yeah, it's exciting.
I also want to give them credit. This is one of the rare occasions where we're seeing a game that is steadily looking more and more sharp and high fidelity as time goes by. A lot of games, the initial reveal looks super sharp, and then as it gets closer to launch, they have to walk it back, and it gets blurrier and blurrier as they start lowering the resolution, doing upscaling and stuff to hit frame rate targets, and just happens a lot. But in this game, I played it at Summer Games Fest last year, and it was good. I was thoroughly impressed by it. But it looked like it was maybe running internally at like, I don't know, something a bit above 1080p, maybe as high as 1440, and then upscaled or stretched or something. But what we're seeing now is across the board way sharper. They have better cloth physics. They have better like everything. And again, like Jor said, you can actually play it. Like, this is real. This is not a question of whether it's real. They're playing it on PS5 hardware in most of the demos that I've seen. Yeah. And it's actually real. They've actually done it. So I do think this is going to be really good. I do think it's important, once again, to distinguish, like Jor did. There are points which are perhaps inspired loosely by Soulsborne games, but this is not one of those R1, R2 games with a quick parry on L1. This is a game based on combos. Even something like you'll see while he's fighting, there's the orange bar in the bottom left. That's basically like your stamina. I forget, they call it like key or something. Yeah. But when you swap weapons, that completely refills. Yeah. So there's this whole subsystem where when you're in a boss fight, part of the strategy is to swap between weapons at certain points in the combo to refill the stamina and let the stamina refill on the other weapon, then swap back and do the finisher on the combo with that other weapon. And I saw one of the game developers play through on the like crazy whatever boss. I forget which one his name is, but seeing him play at a crazy high level was ridiculous. This is another one, like Jor said, it's easy to pick up because it's fairly intuitive that, okay, I string these together this way, I string those attacks together this way, dodge, parry, all of that. But it's tough to master. Like, the guys that are going to be good at this doing speed runs and stuff will break your brain because there's a lot of nuance and depth here. So I agree. This is one to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, it was all running on the base PS5. They had them like showcased on the show floor, and yeah, it ran really, really good. But again, I think it's really the combat and the moves and the boss fight. It was the sort of marionette type boss that we got to play, which was very interesting. And they are hinting at fun things. So at one point you will fight the Red Wraith. And you can like skip this boss, but then that boss will show up at the final boss fight. If you already killed it before, though, you will have an easier final boss fight. So they are toying around with interesting things like this. Wukong did this most recently too. So I hope there are more of these types of secrets. I think that will really elevate this game from a really great action combat game to a super special game with, oh, did you figure this out? Did you figure this out? I've not seen that yet, but the core is so good. And
the thing that's like really hard to get right, which is the combat. they seem to have gotten right. So
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
they did the hard part. They did the hard part. Now it's just putting it all together.
Yeah.
All right. So what's number 2? Because you said this was number 3.
Yeah, the Blood of Dawnwalker. I was really surprised by that game. So they basically showcased the gameplay that we have already seen, but extended it. They also, during I think the Future Game Show or one other like sort of Gamescom show, highlighted some of the new footage. But this is of course the game from the Witcher 3 veterans who worked on The Witcher 3. They're now starting a new studio, Rebel Wolves, and with Bandai Namco, they're publishing this game. And the like what I said about Outer Worlds not having a interesting, this game, like the core of this game is already very interesting because you basically have 2 different characters. It's the same character, but during the night you have these vampiric powers, so you can basically blink from rooftop to rooftop. You can walk alongside walls. Basically, you can reach a lot of points in the game that you otherwise cannot. And during day, you're just this more average guy with a sword who can still do kind of magic, kind of like Geralt. And yeah, you can choose to tackle the missions in this game how you want. So they have and I think, of course, we kind of hear about it, or we have been kind of speculating about it for Far Cry, but they also have for the new Far Cry 7, they also have this new mechanic where basically at the start you want to save your family and you have days, and you can, they say, already go to that main quest objective really soon, but then you're of course not really powered up. But basically, by exploring the world, the time will not move forward. But the moment you do a quest step, there will be a sort of 1 or a 2. So every day has basically 8 bars. And then when you do a certain quest step, it moves forward 1 bar or 2 bars. And then, when it gets night, you switch powers. But that does mean, on paper, that you can explore this open world as a vampire as much as you want, as long as you don't do the important quest steps or whatever to advance the time. So I think this game will already, while it does look like it doesn't have the AAA budget, you do see that. I think the gameplay already looked way better than what they showed at Summer Game Fest. But because you can approach this world in a very interesting way, it already made me think, okay, is this like mission, this boss fight, or should I do it during night with these vampire powers that I like, or should I come back when it's daytime so I can use my magic abilities? Or, okay, I see this chest over there on the roof, I cannot reach it now, I will come back when it's night and then get it. And I think that you will really think about the open world in such an interesting way. So they basically showed the same mission in 2 ways you can do them. They would still end at the same spot. But during day, you're more talking to people. There are dialogue choices. You're kind of it's more like a murder mystery in a way. Like, okay, someone was missing. Can you look for them? Okay, they turn out to be people turn into vampires in this game, but something went wrong. So you fight this boss, and then you go back to this guy. I found him, but he's dead. Okay, now thanks for helping me. You can go here. As a vampire, you're just like completely skipping that step. You're basically figuring clues out yourself because you can reach locations that are otherwise locked off during day. So I thought that was a great showcase of what they could do with this. And they really seem to say, we're not making an enormous game, but basically all the content that we put in the game can be done in 2 different ways. And I really hope that if they deliver on that, it's at least going to be a very interesting new way to experience an open world game like this. So I'm pretty intrigued by it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, the gameplay does look significantly more polished up than even what we saw a couple months back. I mean, they're making leaps and strides. I think obviously if people go into it expecting it to be like, quadruple A budgets, they'll be, they probably let down, but that's not what they're trying to do here. And I think anybody that's looking at it fairly will understand that and be like, okay, this is something new. This is something fresh from a fresh team. And even considering that, I think it looks a lot better than many games we get nowadays, even on a AAA budget. So, but it brings me back to what you said at the top, which is that the core idea, the concept here is exciting and interesting. And that's not true of a lot of games. A lot of games are greenlit on like a very basic premise, something very lackluster and underwhelming. And it's just like generic sci-fi RPG, generic fantasy RPG. This has a really unique hook to it that maybe frustrates some, you know, the specific time limits and stuff. I understand some people don't really like that idea, and that's totally fine. It won't be for everybody. But as we've seen in years past, when you try to make a game for everybody, you often end up making a game for no one. It's much better to make a game that's unique and different and niche and do that really well than to try and do everything for everybody all at the same time. And so I'm excited to see how this comes together. This is also one I'm excited to check out and follow.
Yeah, for sure. Like the Gamescom was a lot like 2026. It's gonna be an insane year. I feel like we say that every year for the year afterwards, but
yeah, dude.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be insane. And with GTA kind of putting this middle spot, you would think that I think a lot of the games we saw at Gamescom are gonna be before GTA 6. So otherwise, why would you be at Gamescom now, right? Why not next year? So it's gonna be a very, very front-loaded year next year. It's gonna be wild.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Sony might just be chilling in the back half of the year with some of their stuff, because they should have some bigger stuff for next year as well. Like Marathon.
If GTA doesn't get delayed, I do think. Yeah, Marathon should be before GTA though.
Yeah, I think it's probably like January, February or something. But okay, well, what's number one? Let's wrap this up. What's your number one most impressed?
So again, like I said, I was at the Xbox booth. I looked around. I just came out of the Outer Worlds 2 presentation. I saw Borderlands 4. I was like, okay, let's try that out. And then I walked out of the Borderlands 4 area, and I saw this game called Onimusha, Way of the Sword. And I was like, okay, why not? We actually made a video on the remastered, the second game that they recently did. I was like, okay, let's just do it. And I picked up the controller. It was a pretty short demo, but that game really showcased, like, it really felt amazing to play. And I love how in this game you immediately understand. And this might sound a bit crazy, but the math behind the attacks. So, for example, so it's pretty linear, but you have an enemy in front of you, and you know, okay, this is the ranged enemy. If I do 2 light attacks, I will get them on their knees. I can finish them off. And you're kind of like dancing. You're constantly knowing, okay, heavy attack, light attack, bomb. Then I finish them off. And it always made sense. It was super, super satisfying. I tried things. They immediately worked. Like, they shoot an arrow at me. I parried the arrow. I was like, okay, this all works. You constantly have to. I think that's just a small little thing, but it's a nice addition. So when you take out an enemy in Onimusha, you have to get their souls basically. So you're constantly killing an enemy, and then you fill up your gauntlet, and then you continue. So yeah, it kind of like every encounter, finishing that feels rewarding. Or you can choose to get the souls before taking out the enemy, so that if you die, you at least have some extra currency. There were really weird enemies. You could use the environment in fun ways. You have the cart that you could like push. I have like there's like a video with some of the gameplay. I'm not sure what you're showing right now. Let me see. Oh, should I show?
There we go. Is it this one, the boss against Sasaki?
It's the.
This is from IGN's hands-on preview.
But if you do this one, you see more of the full gameplay.
Okay.
They mentioned Sekiro as well. It really is kind of like Sekiro, and there have not been a lot of games like it where, again, it's really slowed down. You're constantly like, okay, who's gonna attack me next? Okay, you're that type of enemy. That's a parry. Heavy attack, down. Okay, you're that type of enemy. So I only played this game for 5 minutes, and I was already feeling like I was mastering something. It was pretty simple, and that's why it worked. And then they also have a boss fight that was challenging, but because you could the parry windows are very clear. It felt like, comparing this to Crimson Desert, I was like, okay, it can also be done like this. And having that type of control, I do like that a bit more. Again, it was a very short demo. We have to see how it continues. But there were already things that were intriguing me. You were running around. You saw these ghosts. They were like, what is going on here? You have this gauntlet. Like, what's going on with that? I hope it doesn't talk. But
yeah, it's gonna start. You don't get it, Jor. It's witty. It's charming. Yeah, it's interesting because this is the same demo that we saw at Summer Games Fest, but it was hands off. So they had a producer playing it. But you know, we didn't get to put our hands on it. They did it. And it's I think in terms of structure and format, it's probably going to come off like a maybe less open-ended as Sekiro, because Sekiro did have some pretty wide open levels. As far as I can tell, this is going to be much tighter, more linear. They did say, I think in our preview, that there are going to be points where it'll open up a bit, whether that means just bigger levels or, you know, multiple corridors for you to run through and explore. I don't know. But I do think that the combat looked really, really tight. And I do think that there is certainly a big audience for these types of games that fit into what I think a lot of people expect. People meme about like the Soulsborne meta, how everybody's doing it nowadays. You make a Soulsborne game or you make a Sekiro-like game with a basic parry system. But it's because people like that combat system. People connect with it, you know? Who knows? Maybe in 5 years, everything will be, oh, is it another Crimson Desert-like combat system? Yeah. Maybe we'll be saying that. We don't know, but
I think that they did a great job at modernizing the Onimusha gameplay, because in that game it's really focused on the instant sort of arenas you go to. Every time you have a small loading screen and then you move into a new arena, you fight some new enemies, and everything kind of feels like a puzzle. And even though this game does not have those loading screens, it did feel like that. It's always, okay, now the ranged enemies are there and we have 2 enemies on the ground. Okay, now they combine these 2 enemies, and then it doesn't sound that like new or anything, but it worked really well for this game and for the combat system they had. You also have your special abilities again. Like here they I mean, I'm a bit behind, but yeah, they used the environment. So again, I want to see more of this game. It was more that I was surprised. I was really, really impressed by how good this felt to play in particular. Yeah. So yeah, and it's more than just a Souls, like I would say. It also feels a bit less punishing, and yeah, it still brings its own unique flavor to this sort of action genre that we've seen a lot.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's also I mean, some of the boss designs are really interesting and unique, and I just think it's going to be it's one to keep an eye on. You know, who knows how this scales up as time goes by, but I think, you know, a lot of games get revealed and are utterly forgettable after the first trailer, and you're like, oh yeah, that was revealed 5 years ago, who knew? But this is one where the moment I saw it at Summer Games Fest, it sounds like the moment you got your hands on it, it's like, okay, this is one to keep an eye on. And oh yeah, 100%. That's tough to pull off. It really is. Yep. Oh yeah, well, but I mean, it sounds like you saw a good variety, a wide array, and
I did not even touch on 007, but I can talk about that, but cannot talk about that.
Yeah, something soon, maybe.
Hopefully.
I think they said summer of 2025 is when they're doing, like they said this summer, later this summer. So that's, I think
before the end of September. So
yeah,
then right, yeah.
Yeah, which feels weird because I always feel like summer ends in August, but technically they have through September. No. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it starts in end of June, even though we have Summer Game Fest.
Same thing with like winter. Winter doesn't start until January,
December,
or 21st.
I think December.
Is it? Oh, is it?
End of December in the 21st? Netherlands, at least, in the Europe or in Australia.
It always feels like it starts a solid month or two too late. So.
Oh yeah. No, that's why there was like once the Final Fantasy game. They were like, yeah, it's coming out winter 2023 or something. So we were like, okay, end of 2023. No, that could still mean February 20. Like what the heck are you even saying?
Oh, they get away with the loopholes. Real quick, thank you to Motor Runner 67 for subbing over on Twitch. I'm sorry, this was like 45 minutes ago. Michael GTG, thank you for the resub for 6 months. Can we stop this talking about Ubisoft and AC? I know Jor is Ubisoft's biggest fan, but we're here for Gamescom stuff. Sorry, I also like Assassin's Creed stuff. I grew up playing them, so
I mean, we only touched on it for like 5 seconds.
We did, and we didn't even touch on the biggest news, which is a new DLC for Mirage. That's happening.
But I feel like we cannot talk about that. That person would be very angry if we did. But it's interesting.
Mike will be upset. Real quick, Nerdy Giant, thank you for the 5. No James Bond gameplay. ... They said reveal would be in the summer, didn't they? Yeah, but like we said, could be till September. They might not do anything till like September 30th or whatever.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh yeah, Nerdy Giant also brought up, we mentioned this earlier in the stream, the gameplay for Crimson Desert. Yeah, we talked about that. Luke MF Smith, hell yeah, thank you for the 2. You should get Maddie on the pod somehow. That would be fun. We should do guests on the podcast. We should do that. That'd
I'm totally up for that. I send a look at the James Bond sort of booth they have.
Oh, you did? Oh, hold on.
Through Discord.
Please
don't
hold
play it with sound. Don't play it with sound.
It's just Jor going, oh my god! Oh, this is so cool! Oh, I'm so happy! The whole time you brought your Switch to whatever they are, nunchucks.
Oh, that game is out, by the way. Did anyone wow.
Did anybody play it? Look at this.
Yeah.
They got literal red carpet. Wow. Yeah. When is this? This comes out next year?
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's a pretty car right there. Exclusive presentation.
Yeah.
Dude, IOI. They're coming out swinging.
Yep. They are.
One of the guys in line looks like Adam Sandler. So I'm going to choose to believe that it's Adam Sandler. Well, wonderful. Well, that's a wonderful thing. You know, that's why you watch the Free Roam podcast, because we send Jor out just for this show to go to Gamescom, you know,
100%.
and report just for us. So that's awesome.
Yeah. If there's anything else you want to know, let me know. But yeah, I think only Lego Batman would have been nice to play. But
yeah, that game looks fire. That one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was revealed and people realized how much they missed everything. They missed Arkham and like solid, just fun superhero games. Really refreshing. Question, anything about Silksong? Did you get to look at it, see it? Did you hear rumblings about it, people talking about it, anything?
Yeah, so what was the case with Silksong? They had it at the Xbox booth on an Xbox Li ROG, but of course different. But they only had 4 pots. And there was already an enormous line. It was like a 10-minute demo. And I think they had it on the Nintendo booth as well. I know people who got to play it were saying it's insanely good. But I did not get to play it, sadly. So, Yep.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'll talk to Jor after stream. I'll get him in line. I'll get him in line. But, well, thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Next show will be on a day. I just have to pin it down because I have a busy schedule I will be able to reveal soon. But but we will touch base as soon as we possibly can. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out. I'll be on stream either tomorrow or Wednesday, whichever I feel we have enough to talk about stuff on. And until then, have a fantastic day, everybody. Okay.
Yes. Thanks for watching. See you later.
Much love, everybody. Bye-bye.